हरे राम 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 हरे। ओम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमः विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे नित्यानंद नमस्तुभ्यं प्रेमानंद प्रदायिने कलौ कल्मषनाशाय जानवापतये नमः। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामने गौरतुसे नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So we welcome everyone for today's discussion on Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So we are discussing from chapter 2, and yesterday we discussed verse number 31. The last 2 days we discussed this verse number 31. So today also we'll read the purport and discuss more about it. So this is a new section by Lord Krishna based on this Varnashram Dharma. So in the previous section, which was Science of Soul, from verse number 11 till verse number 30, Lord Krishna explained on a spiritual basis that why Arjuna should not hesitate to fight. So now, in this section, even on material basis, Krishna is convincing Arjuna that it is better for Arjuna to fight rather than avoiding to run away from the fight. Because if even if he thinks that he's a Kshatriya, so as his dharma, Kshatriya dharma, he should follow the principle that a Kshatriya must protect religious principles. So in this way, he should not hesitate to fight. And for a Kshatriya, considering that's why this word is very important. That's why we should very carefully understand this verse. Otherwise, people they get misled. Because in this verse, Krishna says, "Dharmadhi yudra shreyanya kshatriya shana vidyate." That there is no better engagement. There is no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principles. So based on this line only, there are many people who get misled and they say that if you are a kshatriya, if you are a householder, if you are a student, if you are whatever, if you are anything of this material world, so whatever duty, material duty you have, that is better engagement for you. There is nothing better than that. On the basis of this only, people they concoct this karma hi puja hai. The message of Bhagavad Gita is that you do your duty perfectly. There is no requirement for worshipping God, chanting Hare Krishna. When in Bhagavad Gita teaches this, that karma hi puja hai. So, but this is misunderstanding. So why Krishna is telling Arjuna that there is no better engagement for you than fighting? Actually, this is not the best engagement, and there is far better engagement than fighting on religious principles, even for a Kshatriya. And that is to chant Hare Krishna, to fully surrender to Krishna, and to abide by the instructions by Krishna. That is far better engagement. There is no comparison only. And that's what Krishna will explain this thing in upcoming chapters, especially in the word in chapter number 9. Krishna gives the final instructions. So why these people who say that there is no need to worship God, chant, no need to chant Krishna's name. If you just do your material duty, that is perfect. God is satisfied. Why don't they see the verse number 34 of 9th chapter where Krishna says, Manmana bhav mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me. Krishna is telling this clear in a very clear cut manner. Satatam kirtayanto mam. Always glorify me, Krishna is saying. So why they forget this instruction? And at the end of the Bhagavad Gita 18th chapter, again Krishna repeats, Sarva guhyattamam bhuya shru me paramam vacha. Paramam vacha. Paramam vacha means this is my supreme instruction. Just see this. Paramam vacha. Paramam vacha. Paramam vacha. ये Bhagavad Gita 18 point. सर्व गुह्यतमं भूया शृणु मे परमं वचा. 18.64. And before this, I think सर्वगुह्यतमम् इति ज्ञानमाख्यातं गुह्यत गुह्यतरम. After this, Krishna says Manmana Bhagavato again, and then he says Sarvadharman Parityaja. So 64 number verse, Krishna clearly says Sarva Guhyatamam Bhuya Shunu Me Paramam Vacha Ishtavasi Me Dridamiti Tato Vakshayami Te Hitam. Because you are my very dear friend, I am asked speaking to you my supreme instruction. What is that? Supreme instruction? The most confidential knowledge of all. Guhyatamam Gyan. Hear this from me, for it is for your benefit. So for your benefit, Arjuna, because you are my dear friend, so I am speaking to you the supreme instruction. So because Arjuna is very dear friend of Krishna, so Krishna cannot tell him something which is not supremely beneficial. So in the previous in any of the chapters, whatever Krishna spoke on material basis, so that is not supremely beneficial, but for the persons who are unable to accept the supreme instruction, for their benefit, at least get somewhat get some benefit. For them, Krishna spoke that you perform material duties and all these things. But here he is speaking, my supreme instruction is that. This, what is that? He says, Manmanabha Mad Bhakto. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, offer your homage unto me. This is what Krishna is telling. This is supreme instruction. And not only this, somebody may be doing this, always thinking of Krishna, became his devotee, but is still maintaining other material attachments also. But Krishna says, no, 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 no. You have to do this only, keeping me only within your heart. That's why he said, Sarva Dharman Parityajya, everything else you just give up. Maham Ekam Saranam Raja, just take shelter of me only. So that is supreme instruction, Paramam Vacha. Anyway, we'll come back to verse number 31 of second chapter. So there is no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principles. Why? For whom? For considering your specific duty as a Kshatriya. One who considers himself to be this material body for him. And even after explaining the principles of even after explaining that you are not this body, you are a spirit soul, if somebody is unable to accept this because of some reason, whatever reason it may be, either he is unable to understand this, or he is able to understand, but because of excessive material attachment, he is unable to give it up. Then also he is very much attached, excessively attached for material enjoyment, or for considering himself to be this material body. Then Krishna says, then okay, follow Varnashram Dharma. Accept. Then in that case, because Arjuna was a Kshatriya, so there is no better engagement than fighting on religious principle. For a Brahmana, his prescribed duty. For a Vaishya and for Shudra, for Brahmachari, Sannyasi, Vanpras, and Grahastha. So like this, 8 Varna and Ashrama. So uh, different engagements or duties, prescribed duties have been given, so that they can gradually progress towards the ultimate goal of life, which is to situate oneself as an eternal servant of Krishna and give up all other engagement and just simply serve Krishna. Serve Krishna, hear about him, chant about him, glorify him. This is the ultimate business, ultimate duty, and ultimate engagement of each and every living entity. This is the ultimate thing. But one who is unable to do it immediately, so Krishna, being very merciful, he has created other secondary dharmas, Varnashram Dharma, Karma Kanda principles, all these things, so that they can gradually promote themselves. So one should not misunderstand this verse. Okay, so in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, so out of the 4 orders of social administration, the second order for the matter of good administration is called Kshatriya. So 4 Varnas are there. The second one is Kshatriya. Kshat means hurt. One who gives protection from harm is called a Kshatriya. Trayate, to give protection. So Kshatriya means Kshat plus Triya means Trayate. So Kshat means Kshati Pauchana. Kshati is a word you might be knowing in Hindi. Kshati. Kshati came from Kshata, means hurt. To hurt somebody, that is Kshata. And one who gives protection from this hurt, violence, is called a Kshatriya. So the Kshatriyas are trained for killing in the forest. And because Kshatriya, in order to give protection from the violence, he has to apply violence. So they were trained for killing in the forest, in the Gurukulas also, military training was there. And after, when he has become the king, so still, because he should not forget the military skills, so they were allowed to go in the forest and kill this some of the animals. Uh, so a Kshatriya would go into the forest and challenge a tiger face to face and fight with the tiger with his sword. That is what Kshatriya spirit. So when the tiger was killed, it would be offered the royal order of cremation. This system has been followed even up to the present day by the Kshatriya kings of Jaipur state. Means when Sri Prabhupada is writing this purport, almost 1960s, 70s, that even till that time, this principle was followed by the kings of Jaipur, Rajasthan. So the Kshatriyas are especially trained for challenging and killing because religious violence is sometimes a necessary factor. That is required. That's why training must be there. So Kshatriyas were allowed to hunt in the forest, but that does not mean that they became freed from sinful reaction. Still, they got the sinful reaction. So, but the process is there. As long as they are they are in charge of the kingdom. So, for the purpose of maintaining harmony in the kingdom, so that is their duty. So, uh, they were doing this all these things, and Kshatriyas were even allowed sometimes, not in general, those who were saintly kings, Raj Rishis like Parikshit Maharaj, Arjuna, and Yudhishthira Maharaj, Bharat Maharaj, they were all Raj Rishis, devotee kings. So they did not indulge in sinful activities like meat eating, liquor, illicit connection. But those Kshatriyas who were not saintly in nature, so, according to some scriptures, they were even allowed to have this meat eating and intoxication, so that they may continue their activity of protecting. Uh, But when doing so, they were they were given the sinful reaction. It's not that they became freed from sinful reaction. Any sinful activity, if one performs, so he must get the reaction, even if it is required sometimes. So one has to get, because sometimes some of the some people who are in this army, so they ask, because we require to drink liquor because we are in such position. So what can be done? So okay, if you require, you do it, but that does not mean you will become free from sinful reaction. You will have to take the reaction. So that's why if you have chosen this path, so certain kind of reaction one has to get it. Just like the kind of occupation we choose. So according to that occupation, sometimes the occupation itself has some kind of impurity, contamination, and one cannot avoid it. So one has to take the reaction, but at the whatever best he can do to save himself, he should do, and rest he should chant Hare Krishna and become nice devotee. But anyway, so the Kshatriyas are especially trained for challenging and killing because religious violence is sometimes a necessary factor. Therefore, Kshatriyas are never meant for accepting directly the order of sannyas or renunciation. That's why Kshatriyas cannot directly take sannyas, because that is their responsibility to protect citizen kingdom from violence, unnecessary violence. So they have to take such kind of challenging task. So they cannot take the order of sannyas immediately. But the brahmanas who are brahmanas, so they can take sannyas immediately. They do not require to become a grihastha. Kshatriyas were required to become grihastha and maintain the kingdom, peace and harmony in the society. And when they have established, and some of their descendant as a nice Kshatriya king, then they can leave everything and take sannyas and completely purify themselves and go back home, back to God. So that was the system. So Arjuna, he was untimely trying to become a sannyasi, which was not appropriate for Arjuna. because Arjuna was a Kshatriya and great responsibility was there uh, for him. That's why Krishna is telling this. So dharma apichaveksha na vikampitum arasi. That you should understand that you are a Kshatriya. So therefore, Kshatriyas are never meant for accepting directly the order of sannyas or renunciation. Non-violence in politics may be a diplomacy, but it is never a factor or principle. In the religious law books, it is stated, Ahaveshu mitho anyonyam jigham shanto mahikshita yudhamana param saktya swargam jantyaparan mukha यज्ञेषु पशवो ब्रह्मन् हन्यन्ते सततं द्विजय संस्कृता किल मंत्रस्य ते अपि स्वर्गम अवाप्नुवन्. So, in the battlefield, a king or a kshatriya, while fighting another king envious of him, is eligible for achieving the heavenly planets after death, as the Brahmanas also attain the heavenly planets by sacrificing animals in the sacrificial fire. So, this is the benefit they get if they strictly follow the duties, prescribed duties of their respective varna. The Kshatriya, if he fights in the battlefield for the purpose of protecting religious principles, and even if he dies, he gets the same kind of pious credit, which a Brahmana who successfully performs an animal sacrifice. The Brahmana who successfully performs an animal sacrifice, karma kandiya sacrifice, so he is promoted to heavenly planets. Uh, So similarly, a Kshatriya, in order to protect the religious principles, if he fights and kills many people in the battlefield, or even if he is killed, still he is promoted to the heavenly planets. So that is what Krishna is trying to convince Arjuna, that even if you think on the material basis, then also it is better for you to fight. And if you avoid to fight, if you avoid to fight, then you are going to get sinful reaction, because being a kshatriya, because still you have not freed yourself from this bodily concept of life that you are a kshatriya. If somebody who becomes free from bodily conception of life that I am this body, and establishes himself on the spiritual platform, then he can leave any duty. Then there is no bound. He is not bound. There is no compulsion to do any duty. That is explained in Bhagavatam also. Yavat karma kurvita, yavat karma kurvita, 11th canto 20, verse number 9. तावत् कर्माणि कुर्वीता न निर्विद्येत यावता मत्कथा श्रवणादो वा श्रद्धा यावन्न जायते. So as long as one is not satiated by fruitive activity and has not awakened his taste for devotional service by Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, one has to act according to the relative principles of the Vedic injunctions. Till the time one has not developed taste for simply for serving Krishna, chanting Shravanam Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, taste for devotional service, Shuddha Bhakti, pure devotional service. So he has to act according to the regulative principles of the Vedic injunctions. That means if he is a brahmachari, grahastha, vanaprastha, sannyas, he must follow the principles of those ashramas. And if he is a brahman, kshatriya, vaishya, shudra, he must follow the principles of those varna. But in modern time, this has become a very hodgepodge. Exactly, nobody is a pure brahmin, pure kshatriya, vaishya, shudra, pure brahmachari, grahastha, vanaprastha, sannyas. The mixing is there. Because by birth, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra is not, it's not by birth. It's by nature. It's by activities. Guna, karma, vibhavasa. Nature, swabhava, and the kind of activity he is performing accordingly. That's why it's very difficult to find perfect varnashram system in modern days. That's why Srila Prabhupada simply introduced the most perfect process for elevating oneself, and that is Krishna consciousness. Uh, so one can do whatever work one is doing. He should be honestly doing it and remembering Krishna, and without any engaging oneself in sinful activities. And he should uh, wholeheartedly accept the lotus feet of Krishna within his heart and do his material activities, material duties, material studies, whatever it is, to the best of his honesty without getting affected by sinful tendencies, and surrender himself for the service of the Supreme Lord. In that way, one can become completely freed of all contamination and be promoted to the spiritual kingdom of God. So that is the easiest and simplest process Srila Prabhupada has given. But the principle is this: Varnashram dharma, as long as one has not awakened the taste for devotional service, one has to follow the rules and regulations given in a particular one and ashram. So that's why here it is said. So therefore, killing on the battlefield on religious principles and killing animals in the sacrificial fire are not at all considered to be acts of violence because everyone is benefited by the religious principles involved. That's why for a Kshatriya who is fighting on following the religious principles for the purpose of protecting uh, dharma, so that fighting, that killing is not considered to be a violent activity. That is beneficial for everyone. And similarly, just like the example is given, just like a Brahmin, he is performing sacrifice, animal sacrifice, so he kills the animal, but everyone gets the benefit. The animal also who is killed, he also gets the benefit. The animal is either the animal is promoted to the heavenly planets along with the Brahmins and the persons who are doing the sacrifice yajna, or the animals immediately gets a human birth. So that is the benefit. So similarly, for a Kshatriya who is fighting, following for the purpose of protecting religious principles, uh, so they also get the same same kind of benefit. That's why the animal, yeah, it's written. The animal sacrifice gets a human life immediately without undergoing the gradual evolutionary process from one form to another. And the Kshatriyas killed on the battlefield also attain the heavenly planets, as do the Brahmins who attain them by offering sacrifice. This is what is Krishna encouraging. Krishna is encouraging Arjuna that even if you think yourself to be Kshatriya, still it will be beneficial for you and all those soldiers who will be killed by you. For all of you, it will be beneficial that if you execute this battle. So there are two kinds of swadharmas, specific duties. As long as one is not liberated, one has to perform the duties of his particular body in accordance with religious principles in order to achieve liberation. So two kinds of swadharmas are there. The real swadharma means our duty. So real swadharma is that we are, because we are a spirit soul, eternal part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, servant of Krishna, Supreme Lord. So the real swadharma, real duty of everyone is to serve Krishna. But those who are not liberated, man, that means those who are still in bodily concept of life. That means considering oneself to be this body. Those who think that they are this body, for them, the Swadharma then becomes related with this body. If the body has taken birth in the land of Bharatvarsh, then he is a Bharati Indian. Then he has to act for the benefit of country. If the body has taken birth somewhere to certain sets of parents, brother, and relatives, and community is developed, then he gets the duty to serve them in this way. This Swadharma. So, on the basis of what kind of identification one is having. If somebody has understood that I am not this body, then his only Swadharma is to fully surrender to Krishna and serve Krishna. But if one is unable to understand, or one is unable to accept this dharma of serving Krishna, then he cannot neglect the dharma of material body. That means if somebody if he leaves the duty towards parents, relatives, demigods, and country and society man, community, if he leaves this dharma, then he is sure to get sinful reactions, and he will have to undergo great severe punishment for many thousands of years. If he has left any of the duty, and he has not accepted the service of the Supreme Lord Krishna. So either one accepts our real dharma, swadharma, that is service to Krishna. If somebody has engaged himself completely in the service of the Supreme Lord, then he is completely freed from all other debts. That is also explained in Bhagavatam. त्यक्त्वा नृणां पितॄणां न च किंकरो च राजन. Exact words I don't remember. Google Baba failed. न च किंकरो च राजन. Yes, 11,541. This is, yeah. देवार्षि भूताप्त नृणां पितॄणां न किंकरो नायं ऋणी च राजन्. सर्वात्मना यः शरणं शरण्यं गतो मुकुन्दं परिहृत्य कर्तम्. O king, one who has given up all material duties and has taken full shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda, who offers shelter to all, is not indebted to the demigods, great sages, ordinary living beings, relatives, friends, mankind, or even one's forefathers who have passed away. Since all such classes of living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, one who has surrendered to the Lord's service has no need to serve such persons separately. But for whom? For a person who has taken full shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna and has engaged himself completely in the service of the Lord, then he has no debts to anybody else in this material world. And even if he leaves any kind of duty towards parents, relatives, friends, demigods, and forefathers, still he will not get the sinful reaction. But if somebody leaves any of the duties mentioned here, demigods, great sages, ordinary living beings, relatives, friends, parents, forefathers, and he is not engaging himself in the service of the Supreme Lord, but rather he is engaging himself just for enjoying sense gratification, then he must get the sinful reaction, and for this he has to suffer in the upcoming future. So this is the lesson. Krishna is telling this to Arjuna that if you cannot surrender unto me completely right now, so you cannot give up your duty because you are a Kshatriya and you are duty bound to give protection. If you leave this battlefield, then you will get the sinful reaction. Okay. So this is last paragraph. We'll read it tomorrow, complete it tomorrow because the time is going to get over. So if somebody has any questions, you can ask. Hare Krishna. Yes, Vartika Mataji. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी दंडोत। प्रभु जी मेरा ये क्वेश्चन है, जैसे ये मतलब ब्राह्मणों ने मतलब जब भी वो किसी एनिमल्स का बलि दिया यानी अग्नि में उसे जलाया, तो फिर वो मतलब मनुष्य जन्म कैसे पा सकता है? उसको भी तो कर्म अकॉर्डिंग ही जन्म मिलना चाहिए।
मनुष्य
ये
ये
नहीं मुझे
देखे,
समझ में।
ये जो है, ये जो विज्ञान है, दिस इज लॉ. We cannot ask that why according to this law this punishment or this reward is given. Just like लॉ बुक आप पढ़िए तो लॉ बुक में लिखा है कि अगर किसी ने ऐसा ऐसा अपराध किया तो उसको ऐसा पनिशमेंट मिलेगा. तो आप वहां पे ये नहीं पूछ सकते कि ऐसा अपराध करने से ऐसा पनिशमेंट क्यों दे रहे हैं, इसके पीछे रीजन बताओ. नो, वो अथॉरिटीज दे हैव सेड दिस, सो वी हैव टू एक्सेप्ट. So, according to Vedic scripture, the Supreme Lord has set this principle that this is the yajna. You perform this yajna properly. तो जो एनिमल है, जो जानवर है, उसमें जो सेक्रीफाइस होगा, he'll get the human birth. तो उसके पीछे, हर चीज के पीछे
सो
रीजन नहीं होता है. यही रीजन है that the
और
Supreme Lord,
और
Supreme
प्रभु
Authority
जैसे
has given this law.
और प्रभु जैसे क्षत्रिय का वर्णन हुआ है कि मतलब ये लोग युद्ध
टाइम हो
में
गया
जो
है.
जानवरों को मार।
टाइम हो
ओके।
गया है. We have only less than 1 minute.
ठीक है।
ओके, तो कल आप पूछें, कल हम लोग चर्चा करेंगे. ओके, थैंक
जी
यू वेरी मच.
प्रभु, हरे कृष्ण।
हरे कृष्णा. Hare Krishna. Happy to see so many devotees coming today. We wish tomorrow also you come, all of you. Hare Krishna.